Hi, it's me. This is my channel. In this episode, we're going to talk about what life was like for prehistoric people living in what archaeologists call the Old Stone Age or the Paleolithic. The Old Stone Age lasted from about 2.6 million years ago to around 10,000 years ago. That's a long time. The Old Stone Age was when our earliest ancestors started making and using stone tools, and it lasted until the end of the last ice age. But because the Old Stone Age lasted for so long, the way of life we associate with it changed quite a bit over time. Let's start with the environment. Early humans lived during the Old Stone Age. That's pretty obvious. We can learn about their environment by studying fossils and the layers of dirt and rock they come from. And what we learn from those tells us that early humans lived during an ice age. Yes, it was cold. It was also dry. Most of the world wasn't covered in ice, but glaciers did cover parts of North America, Europe, Asia, and Africa. Huge sheets of ice moved slowly across the land, carving out valleys and leaving behind deposits of rock and soil. And while these glaciers were melting, they created huge lakes. Some of these lakes still exist today, like the Great Lakes in North America. The glaciers also left behind large areas of exposed rock, which were kind of like deserts. These rocky areas didn't have much vegetation growing on them, so there weren't many resources available. So it's not surprising that people who lived in places like these were nomadic. They had to move from place to find food. People in the Old Stone Age hunted animals for food, but they also gathered wild plants to eat. Men hunted animals, while women gathered berries, nuts, fruits, and edible plants. This meant that people couldn't stay in one place for too long. They needed to follow the herds of animals or the edible plants as they moved around. This is why the people of the Old Stone Age are called nomadic hunters. They followed their food. Some people think that nomadic hunter-gatherers always lived in small groups, but that might not be true. Archaeological evidence suggests that some of the time they lived in larger groups, maybe even numbering up to 100 or more people. These big groups would have been like extended families, made up of lots of related families living together. This is called a clan. Clans might have been made up of several nuclear families or family units consisting of parents and children. Some scientists believe that these clans may have acted as a sort of They could have had leaders and divisions of labor and complex social structures. We don't know too much about them right now, but we hope to learn more in the future. Life as a member of a nomadic hunter-gatherer society wouldn't have been easy. You might think that hunting and gathering food is easier than growing crops or raising farm animals. That's probably true, but it does require you to constantly be on the move. It's hard physical work to travel with all of your stuff, especially if you're doing it on foot. And it's risky. If your group is following a herd of animals and the herd moves out of the area, then you need to find another source of food. Sometimes it could be dangerous. Not only do you have to worry about the weather, but other groups of people might want the same food sources as you. And remember, this is before the development of agriculture, so your food supply could run out. Starvation was a very real threat for people living in the Old Stone Age. And yet most scientists agree that life during the Old Stone Age was actually pretty good. People had plenty of food and clothing, and they didn't have to work as hard as farmers do today. But not everyone agrees with that. Some scientists think that life was really hard for the people in the Old Stone Age, and they use archaeology to back up their argument. Take projectile points. For example, archaeologists have found thousands of these little sharp pieces of rock that were probably used as the points of arrows or spears. Many of these were found broken or damaged. And if that doesn't sound like a big deal to you, well, just think about how many times you've broken a fingernail or broken a finger. Now imagine doing that in a time period where you have to make your own tools and clothes and shelter and food. If you break something important, you could get seriously injured and might die. In a time with no doctors to help you. Other archaeological evidence suggests that people in the Old Stone Age had to fight off predators like wolves and cave bears. Scientists know that prehistoric people fought bears because they found bones from bear attacks. Some of these bones show signs of being cooked, meaning that the person was killed while cooking. Other bones show cut marks, meaning that the person was butchered and eaten. But wait, if people were getting attacked by bears and butchered, then shouldn't there be signs of injuries from defending themselves? Well, yes. But scientists say that any cuts and wounds would have healed over and would leave behind any archaeological evidence. But the scientists who think that life in the Old Stone Age was hard say that there is evidence that people had to defend themselves against other people. They point to the discovery of skulls with trauma consistent with blows from clubs or stones. Some of these skulls also show signs of defensive wounds, suggesting that the person tried to protect themselves from the attack. What about the shelters that people in the Old Stone Age built for themselves? Were they safe from predators? Probably not. Most likely, they huddled around a fire inside a circle of animal skins, which isn't much protection from a hungry bear. And speaking of fires, keeping a fire going through the night might have been necessary for warmth and protection. But tending a fire all night long is hard work and requires a lot of fuel. All of this adds up to suggest that life in the Old Stone Age was hard, perhaps even harder than life today. But there's one more thing to consider. Some scientists argue that the colder climate of the Old Stone Age actually helped people survive. They had plenty of meat to eat, thanks to the herds of animals that migrated into the area. During the summer and fall, they could gather wild grains and berries, and in the winter, they could turn to preserved food sources like dried meat, fish, eggs, and fruit. This means that there was plenty of food to go around, which led to increased social interaction between nomadic groups. This could have been great for sharing ideas, and it seems that people in the Old Stone Age had lots of ideas. Take cave paintings. For example, during the later part of the Old Stone Age, starting around 40,000 years ago, people began creating incredibly detailed images of animals on cave walls. They used bright colors made from natural materials like berries and minerals. Cave paintings are just one example of prehistoric art. Over the years, scientists have discovered all kinds of creative works from the Old Stone Age, including sculptures, jewelry, and musical instruments. People in the Old Stone Age also developed new ways of making tools and weapons. In fact, each change in climate and environment seems to have inspired new technologies. For example, during the last ice age, temperatures dropped even more, and the glaciers grew. This led to the invention of new tools made from bone and other materials, as well as new hunting techniques. So was life during the Old Stone Age better than today or worse? Well, it's complicated. There's evidence to support both sides of the argument. Life was different, that's for sure. Prehistoric people didn't have the conveniences that we enjoy today, like air conditioning, or cell phones, or pizza delivery. But they didn't have to deal with things like traffic jams, crime, or reality TV. In some ways, life in the Old Stone Age sounds kind of relaxing. Okay, so let's review. What did we learn? First, the Old Stone Age lasted for a really long time, from about 2.6 million years ago to around 10,000 years ago. It was a time when our earliest ancestors started using stone tools, and it lasted until the end of the last ice age. Second, during the Old Stone Age, most people lived in small groups. These groups were called clans. They might have acted as a sort of proto-society with leaders and a division of labor. Third, people in the Old Stone Age hunted and gathered their food. This is called being a nomadic hunt. Life in the Old Stone Age wasn't easy. People had to constantly be on the move, and they had to contend with things like predators and rival groups. There is evidence that life got a little easier during the Old Stone Age, though. There was usually enough food to go around, and people had lots of opportunities to interact with each other. This led to cultural developments like cave paintings and new technologies. Thanks for watching. What did you find most interesting about life during the Old Stone Age? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and join us next time for more adventures in time and space. See you later!